Much like in The Wizard of Oz, when you pull the curtain away of your DM's tricks, you can often be disappointed with what you see. But sometimes you can be even more impressed to see just how the inner mechanics of how they were running a game worked. It's at this point in the game where I start to get hazy on the details, so let's just see where we get, right? The rest of this was very much the Season 2 of our game. You know that anime where the first season was really awesome, and the second was a little bit of a mess, but it had some really cool ideas and scenes, but still a mess. Firstly, I buried that town. I took the time, and with the help of Percy, thankfully, we dug out graves and buried as many people as we could, and while we never really dived too deep into each other's backstories, or even talked in character to each other a lot, I still felt really bad for leaving Leku in the Feywild, and failing as a cleric, in and out of game. You know, I hoped the elves were keeping him safe, but we had no idea how to get back there, so onward with our previous plans, which was to find the princess, I guess, and figure out why the summoning assassins were after us. Well, other than because we killed the queen. So I guess we're just trying to deal with that. We hopped to it, heading to the next town. I'm unsure why we picked this town. I think it was because our buddy Percy had some lichen blood hunters in that city that he knew. So it was the best choice we had, I suppose. We arrived, and without warning us, Percy decided to announce himself. He, jumped to the top of one of the highest buildings, and he howled. Really loudly. At first we were worried guards would show up. These strange metal-helmed hunters showed up, and it seems like this gang's stick was they could turn into ghosts. We dealt with mutant animal summoners, venom blood hunters, lichen hunters are apparently a thing now, and ghost blood hunters are after us. This is getting very dense and tedious. As ever, we fought back as best we could, and were more or less forced to hide out for the night to rest. Not exactly our best night back. We woke up, however, in no better of a situation. A lady werewolf came to get Percy, wondering who the new werewolf in town was. Especially considering this was kind of a hypocritical organization like most blood hunters are, where they use the blood of the creature to hunt the blood of the creature. So they were making sure he was a hunter of werewolves and not just a werewolf. But, coincidentally, that was at the same time that the mutant hunters were back and trying to kill us again. Thankfully, the Lichen Lady said that they had a lair in the city that we could use. The only problem is that when we got there, guess who was already there fighting? The Ghost Blood Hunters had already sieged the Lichen lair, and oh boy, the boss of the Ghost Blood seemed to be among them. Out of desperation and a penchant for disaster, Percy once again took it upon himself to take out the leader in disastrous fashion. He ran at them with some sort of dwarven super powder keg we had found from the mines, and kamikazed into them. The blast shook the leader, wounding him and caused him to retreat. Percy, however, lost an arm and his life to this attack. The biggest difference this time being, I was a much higher level cleric with serious amounts of money, so I was able to revivify him almost instantly, only to angrily knock his butt out again after doing something so dumb. We are now somewhat safer and able to regroup and plan our next move, which was, okay, give me a break. This was 5 years ago. I can't remember everything. I know we eventually went into a tavern where we met with our new player, who was also a character named Vincent. And he had his own ship and a pet friend. He had a friend named Gary, who was a skeleton. He wasn't even a necromancer, he was like a cowboy. You can probably guess who was playing him. And we met a young drow lady, Vexanus, I think her name was, who actually became quite a big member of our group. She wanted to get back to the Underdark, I think, but I don't think we ever got that far. And I'm slowing down on the details and what was happening for two reasons. One being it's hard to remember. The second being, even though this seems like the start of something new, this is quickly becoming the end of the story. Not long after we got back into the groove and found ourselves in more battles, it was wearing down, but there was one titular battle to end with a 3-way party split. Some of us were teleported away with some of the enemies to a dungeon, but Erikudu managed to, in his own devices, get the others out of there since he was with them. He used Dimension Door, which he had now because warlocks. So he took the NPCs and Kagan out of there, into the desert, just dimension dooring over and over until they got to somewhere else. And that's where things started to dissolve. I would love to have blamed this on the why you should never split the party deal, but really it was just school, and people got busy. We did have small little sessions with the separate groups we were with now. Vincent tried to learn more about his Brightborn blood, which led him to a town which apparently Percy was also going to, who had already split up with Ias and the Drow. I think Ias was helping our Drow get back to the Underdark. Apparently running into Leku, who was revived at some point, and we just never knew about that. I think Erikudu and other Vince were going to shortly arrive at the same town Percy and I were at, because DMs know how to rope people back together. We left this game being so close to figuring out what a Brightborn might have been, and never even a little closer to figuring out what happened to the town that vanished. And we very well may never know where the princess was. But that's just how some games go. Our group never stopped playing together, besides some who came and left. They are classic friends we made along the way, right? But you know, that was 5 years ago, and we've had many great games in between then, and I'm sure you're going to hear many, many more. I do have one last little tidbit, however, that blew my mind when I learned about it nearly 4 years or 5 years after this game ended. Turns out our DM Michael didn't really have any idea how to play 5th edition. He understood a lot, sure, from what he had watched, but I don't think he ever actually learnt the system. He admitted to not really having any idea how ability scores worked or to hit bonuses. He might have had some idea, I don't want to make him sound like a complete fool, but I don't think he ever actually learnt the full system. He relied on basically just the D20 and how that rolled and went with that. Which meant once I had over 20 AC, you can see how it became impossible for him to hit me. So, like any DM, he just lied about a lot. He just decided when things hit me or not, or when things worked or not. And if that doesn't show you how well you can BS your way through a game and still have fun, then I don't know what will. We had no idea. I don't feel cheated. I think it was awesome. Thanks for going on this little reflection journey with me. I do think fondly of this game as one of my first big ones. The one where I learned a lot about why I love D&D and the storytelling that comes with it. And if anything, I hope this just gives you inspiration and some motivation to run or find a game of your own. Because you can just wing it and have fun. I'll see you in the next video.